that's gone on in CTE with my life over the last couple of years, like working on my 5 industry certifications and being able to use those in actual real-world situations while still in high school. So I'm here, I'm District 4 FFA President, all of Northeast Florida, and I'm representing all the FFA members and CTE students in Clay County. And really why I'm here today is to share with you my experience with CTE. So my grandfather before me was an FFA in the early 1960s, or late 1950s, and so FFA and agriculture are a big tradition in my family. And in 7th grade, I got involved in FFA, and I never really thought it would snowball into what it is today. I started showing a pig. I got all these different SAEs. I work at the Amazing Grace Crop Maze. I have my community garden. I do all those amazing things. And slowly over time it developed into more and more, and having leadership in my chapter, being able to exert more leadership over my school, just having the opportunity to grow as an individual is something that really motivated me as I continued to move through high school. So high school has been a really great experience for me, and CTE has really changed who I am and made me a more well-rounded individual. So the world that we live in today is so crazy. Information is coming at us constantly. Our food comes from halfway across the world a lot of the times, and everybody in this room probably has a cell phone on them that they can pick up and Google anything they want to. And 10 years ago, it was not like that. And so that's why CTE is so important to our education systems, because as society changes, so do our education systems need to change with them. And as high school kind of winds down and I come into some of my last years and some of my last experiences, my last contests, I look to myself and I look to my peers around me, and I think of all the wonderful skills that CTE has given me, and skills that I wouldn't have without these classes, and skills that many of my peers don't: commitment, leadership, adaptability, passion, and cooperation. I'm really here today to thank you for having that impact on me. Thank you for letting me have that impact on my community. And I think that CTE is something for all generations, for the past, for my grandfather, for me today, and going into the future, where I want to come back and teach CTE and have an effect on the next generation of Clay County students. So I thank you for everything that you've done for me. I wish you a happy National CTE Month, a happy National FFA Week. Woo. So I'm really thankful for all that you've done, and I'm so thankful that everyone supports CTE on this board. So thank you so much.
I mean, we can go home tonight, can't we? Not yet, because I have another treat for you guys. I've got Madison Moyer from Clay High School. Madison is a senior as well. She is going to attend Florida Institute of Technology this fall. What's so cool about Madison is she is in automotive maintenance and technology. Not what you're going to think when you see Miss Madison. So she's got some great stuff to share with us. And by the way, her principal, Mr. Kerry Dix, is here tonight, and so is her automotive teacher, Mr. Frank Mancuso. So that shows how supportive that program is as well. So Miss Madison, come on up.
Thank y'all for having me tonight. Sorry, I'm really nervous. My name is Madison Moyer, and I'm a senior at Clay High. And I have been involved with the automotive program for 2 years now. Everyone kind of goes through that phase where they don't really know what they're going to do. That was me. I started off wanting to be a veterinarian. I've always been kind of scared of what I was going to do, you know? And I just decided I was going to try something different, and I enrolled into the automotive program. And I realized that I love doing it. It's just something I enjoyed, and so I stuck with it, and it kind of opened my eyes to what my passion was, and it kind of just, I really enjoy it. And just this year I rebuilt Chevy 350 engine and cleaned it all up, and it was not even running last year, so it's like, it's kind of crazy. I started studying for my first ASC exam, which I took yesterday and passed, so I plan to take another one. I plan to take my second one probably the end of this year. I have 2 periods of automotive this year, and I'm kind of looked up upon as from the other people. I also volunteer in my spare time at an auto shop across the street, just kind of to expand my knowledge and get more experience with everything. I've definitely learned a lot. There's just something about like working with the machines that just revs your heart up, you know. It's just fun to me. Okay, got some laughs on that one. I realize it's not every day that a woman my age is head over heels in love with something like this, so it's exciting. Like Ms. Shear said, I recently decided to attend Florida Institute of Technology. I plan to go into the mechanical engineering field, specialized in automotive. Basically, what a mechanical engineering specialized in automotive design, they basically would be making the mechanical components on automobiles and testing and building anything to do with automobiles and engines, which to me sounds like a blast. My dream job would be to be a mechanical engineer on a race team.
Sweet.
But I've definitely found where I want to be. So, and that's just because of the automotive program. And I just
You're fine. It is
You're fine.
I'm sorry.
You want me to read it for you?
No, I'm almost done.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just want to thank Mr. Ricky so. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks to this program, it's definitely inspired me to be different, and I've found my passion, and I really want to thank Mr. Mancuso for helping me with that.
That's great. Hey, Madison. Madison. I just want to say something real quick to Madison. Is that Madison? I just want to say something real
Madison.
quick to you. First of all, I am so inspired by your story. And I will just say, for whatever it's worth, when I was a senior in high school, I took auto shop. I was the only woman, I was the only senior, and it led me down that same path. And so you are picking a great field to go into. And it's all about loving to work with your hands. So I'm very, very inspired by your story. And good luck. I wish you the best. That's great.
So I told you all I was giving you guys a special treat tonight. 2 fabulous students who are very touched by what CTE does for them day in and day out. And you guys can see as well as I can that they're going to go off from Clay County and do great things. Hopefully they'll come back to Clay County to help continue and move us forward. So thank y'all. Happy CTE month. And as William said, happy FFA, National FFA Week. Have a good one.
Okay. All right. We do not have any scheduled citizens requests, so I will last call for yellow cards. Are there any last-minute yellow cards to get turned in before we move to the discussion agenda? Okay. Moving to the discussion agenda, first item up, D1, is Superintendent's update. Mr. Van Zant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to follow up, I was in Tallahassee, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and I'm rounding the corner, and I hear some familiar voices, and who do I run into but Mr. William Donahue, the young man that just spoke to us, and a group of kids from the Florida Farm Bureau, all sporting their blue corduroy jackets, all from Clay County, and they were waiting to see our senator, Senator Rob Bradley, and speak to him. And, you know, as it happens up there, the schedules run late, and he was running a half an hour behind, however far it was. So they walked on in his office, and he very graciously invited me in. And I was just following up on our request. You know, each year we have some legislative priorities, and on the very top of those this year is some a request to get some fixed capital outlay dollars to expand our academy offerings within the academies that we already have, make them look and feel a little bit more like what they already are, and get some of those tools and equipment and all the things that you need to make them look. And by the time that group of young people, there were 6 or 7 of them there, got done speaking, and we're ready to leave, and Senator Bradley's like, "What do you need, Mr. Superintendent?" I said, if that didn't convince you, I can't say anything more to it. I mean, our students out of these programs represent us so well. It made it really easy for me, just another middle-aged dude walking in like everybody else up there, just to say, hey, you just heard it straight from the recipients of who's going to be getting this appropriation. So that's great. Our kids do us proud every time. Miss Kelly Mosley had them all up there. They were dressed, their hair was combed, their shoes were shined. They were just a good-looking bunch, tell you what. For tonight, last month we were able to bring you a little news on our graduation rates, and about 2 weeks ago on Friday, I think it was a Friday before Valentine's Day, district grades were published. So this was the first look we got at how Clay County and all the other counties fared under the new Florida assessment system. And next slide, please. I'm happy to report to you that Clay County is an A-rated school district. We're on a climb to be a top 10 district. And out of the districts in North Florida that are an A school, I'm also happy to report to you that we seem to be the best stewards of our money. We're doing A work, and we've got a little bit less to spend than some of our neighbors across the river, but we're still getting the job done with what we have. So I'm very happy to report that to you. Oh, come on now. That doesn't evoke anything. We're a Clay district in the top. Goodness gracious. Thank you. And again, that is not anybody sitting up here on this dais. That is our teachers and our administrators and our support staff knocking it out of the park every day. The people in our instructional division, I was talking to some teachers today. We were talking supplemental materials and curriculum maps and how they enjoy what's there now because it's embedded and they can pull down. There's just so many things that you can pull into your lesson plans now, and our teachers are really doing some fabulous work in our schools every day. So I thank them for that effort. I thank our students for their great effort, and we're moving through this together. Next slide, please. Just to recap where we are over the last couple of years with our graduation rates. In the 11-12 year, we were a little bit below the state average, and based on the 14-15 school year, our rates have increased 9.5% over the last 4 years. And what I'm most impressed by is for the first time in history, Clay County is above the national average. Clay County is over 150 years old. We've never had a graduation rate to exceed the national average, and now we do. So again, thank you for all those that are making it happen for our students every day. Next slide.
All you teachers.
We have a very clear vision. We have lots and lots of work to do, which is great because we got lots and lots of people with their sleeves rolled up out there doing the work. And just to remind everybody, here's the path forward. But between these 4 major initiatives, I think we'll move Clay County continually in the right direction and towards being a top 10 district in the state of Florida. Just to highlight a couple of things that are going on right now, as the legislature ends its session on March 11th, they'll likely head into conferencing for the actual appropriations and budgetary purposes. As that happens, we have several of our businesses here in Clay County that are supporting the academies of Clay. They're business partners in with these academy coaches. They attend the academy team meetings. They're investing time in mentorship with our kids. They're doing internships and externships. We've got all kinds of business partnerships going. And I'd like to personally thank Mr. Bill Garrison with the Clay Economic Development Council. He's worked with us, and many of these business leaders in Clay County are writing letters to the governor and members that chair appropriations committees in the legislature to help us push forward the board's legislative priorities and to try to find a few more dollars to invest in our students. So we've built a great coalition, and that community engagement part, we talk a lot about the academies. We have exciting stuff to share out of STEM. You see, anytime you want to walk through an elementary school and look at our collaborative classrooms, we'd be glad to share that with you. But the community engagement piece, you know, we used to just kind of do it all with the people we had here within the school district, and really and truly, in 2016, that in my humble opinion is simply not enough. We need to engage those in the community that believe in what we're doing, and it's not a hard sell when we talk to them about what's going on in our school system. They're very happy to come alongside, so I'm thankful for that. Did you want to say anything about the visit? Ms. Condon, you don't have to. I didn't know if you were prepared to. Ms. Condon was able to come up one of the times I was in Tallahassee. And
I went to the FSBA legislative days in Tallahassee, and it was my first one. It was very eye-opening. We got to meet with Senator Bradley. We passed Representative Cummings on the highway. He was headed back this way, but I've spoken to him, and then Representative Van Zant for the south end of the county. We also got to meet with Representatives Smith and Sullivan, who are either on education committees or will be on education committees right now, community development, who are very interested in understanding the needs of educators and of school boards and that kind of thing. So it was very productive. So it was just really a great experience. And then I guess the last thing was that I did get to spend some time with our Southern Strategies people, and they actually got us in to see Representative Frezen's aide. I did see Frezen for 30 seconds, but did not. No one was getting in Frezen's door that week, obviously, with that many school board members running around the Capitol. But I did get to speak with his aide, so that was very enlightening. That they are pushing for us to get some real good dollars to bring back for our academies. So I thought that was great.
Okay, thank you. All right, our next item is D2, Human Resources, Special Action A. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval. I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Bear with me just for a second here. Okay. All right. Our next item up is D3, Legal Services. We do have one card on this one, and so before we bring this to the floor, Ms. Tracy Butler.
Thank you, Tracy Butler. I represent both CESPA and CCA, and my information is on file. The union provides legal representation for its members, and that representation is for matters regarding employment, accusations, and certificate issues. However, it is not the responsibility of the union to provide representation to employees when they are subpoenaed to give testimony in lawsuits against the district or testimony in custody issues regarding their students. That representation is the responsibility of this district and has always been provided by the district's legal department. However, for about a year now or a little more, our teachers have been calling our office and stating that they are not receiving support in this area, and this is of great concern to me as an advocate for our teachers and support personnel. I would like for this board to speak with Mr. Sykes about this. It should give you great concern that this is happening. These cases have always typically been handled by the attorney. He has always given our teachers support. And these lawsuits are filed against the district. These are not lawsuits that are filed against a teacher or a support personnel. So it is in this district's best interest that they give support to those teachers, and is a very stressful time for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Okay. All right. Item D3, legal services. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Actually, we don't know. We don't have a motion on this yet. Okay. So, Ms. Karakish, I believe this was you wanted to bring this item.
Actually, this was just discussion from last
Yeah.
month, to discuss what to do with it. And I think Ms. Butler has a point there about our legal services. I'd like to ask Mr. Sykes if the employees do contact him, would he follow up on it and prepare them if it's, I think the case she's talking about is a deposition that has to be given, or it was somebody was subpoenaed, so.
Yeah.
Well,
it can be very
I've spoken with this teacher 3 different times. What it refers to is a matter that there's litigation from 2010 in which has been previously settled by the school board, and there is no pending action against the school board. What specifically she wanted was a copy of her statement that she gave to Mr. Bickner. Mr. Bickner didn't leave that file, nor did he brief me in any way, shape, or form in this case. I've looked into it. I have no copies of any statements that she's given, and I can't give that information to her. As to the other side of the coin, when teachers call me up and they ask me about depositions, if they are being sued and if they are being subpoenaed in their official capacity, that is part of the function of the school board to represent them. But if they're not being subpoenaed in their official capacity and they're being subpoenaed as a fact witness, this person is a fact witness to a get-together that occurred off duty, that's not part of the function of the school board.
1 second. Mr. Otto, I'm sorry, but you are not allowed to approach this. Excuse me? I don't have a card for this on this from. I don't have anything here.
Anyway, the bottom line of it is that when teachers are subpoenaed to testify individually, if we want to change the policy, if you take a look at the school board policy on what the school board attorney does, it says the following: the school board shall obtain an attorney from outside of its own membership who shall act as a legal advisor to the school board and the superintendent. The school board shall provide a written contract for the attorney. Special counsel may be retained to assist the board attorney in any litigation or other matters when specifically approved by the school board. That's it. It says nothing about representing teachers individually. When they're to be fact witnesses. And in fact, I will tell you that in other governmental capacities, it's the same thing, and that's what the counties do. Other school boards do it the same way. The school board attorneys systematically do not represent teachers as fact witnesses. But if they have a question, like I'll give you an example of the same thing with this teacher. we spoke several times on this issue of the subpoena. They subpoenaed her to testify as a fact witness during the spring break. So I explained to her, I cannot, as a school board attorney, object to anything in that proceeding. But she asked me, would you give me the courtesy of calling this attorney? I said, absolutely. So I called the attorney. I told him about the fact that she's going to be up in North Carolina on a vacation, and asked if he would be so kind as to give us the grace and the courtesy to continue the hearing. And he has to coordinate that with other attorneys, but he promised me that he would contact her and see if he could reschedule it, and he's trying to do that. But if he chooses to go forward with that deposition, there's nothing legally I can do to stop that.
So, Mr. Sykes, can I ask a question about that? So you're saying that the lawsuit that pertains to the district has already been settled?
It was settled. It was
Being called
settled
for-
long before I ever came here, and it was settled by Mr. Bickner.
Right.
And that file is nowhere anywhere in my office.
I heard that. So is she being called to testify on behalf of something else? One of the
She's
other
being
parties?
called as a fact witness between the remaining parties. That person that has filed that lawsuit has settled it with the school board. There is no pending litigation between that person and the school board. And I've explained that to her as well.
So when it's a case of actually the school district that is, if there were another case where we were being sued and a deposition was required or something, you are available?
Absolutely. And I have been available, either myself or it depends on what's going. But yes, there will be representation there. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Well, I, after last month's meeting, went home and thought about it, and I liked what Ms. Gilhousen suggested, that possibly waiting until the end of this fiscal year, which would be June 30th, sometime around then, to see if our budget allows us to look into a full-time attorney. So if the rest of the board agrees with that, I would be fine with postponing it.
I would agree with that, but I didn't say a full-time attorney. What I would be interested in us doing is, instead of having another job description and advertising a job description, instead we do an RFP, and we look into possibly hiring a firm to represent us. I think there might be an opportunity to, I don't want to say expand our legal services, but I just like the model. We did get one applicant that was a firm, and to me that application stood out among all the rest, and I'd like to see a comparison of firms as a potential hire. And I think that we would get better services if we're not, and we'd have a better opportunity to negotiate salary if we don't have an exact, if we're not advertising as a job description with this is your salary. You know what I'm saying? If we do an RFP and ask for bids instead.
Well, I would be, comfortable putting it off and discussing whether it be a firm or full-time or part-time when the time comes.
Okay. I'm good with that.
I'd like to move that we delay the.
It's not an action item.
Yeah, it's not an action item.
No
Well, we don't have to move it to a different. I mean, I'm tired. It keeps coming up. So
Ms. Condon, I'm on a month-to-month, and basically until the board decides to get rid of me, I'm on a month-to-month.
so we don't have to
No, ma'am, you don't.
talk about it again.
No.
Until the board decides they want to replace me, I'm on a month-to-month.
So, okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Karakis. Ms. Gilhausen. Okay, the next item up is item C19. This was pulled from the consent agenda. I believe Ms. Karakis pulled this, but before we get to it, we do have a couple of yellow cards on this. Mr. Otto, I found your card, and your card did not address the item that we just spoke about. Your card specifically addresses football. Let's see, you wrote football, doctors, and pills. So whatever that is, there's nothing on our agenda that covers that. It will go to the end of the presentations from the audience. So there's nothing written on there. It doesn't tell you which item, and that. So all I'm saying is what you put on here. We don't have any item on the agenda to cover that, and so this will be covered at the end of the meeting. You'll get a chance to speak. It'll just be at the end of the meeting with the other ones. Okay? All right. C19, Ms. Paiva, you have a yellow card. This item is budget amendments for the month of January 2016.
Yes, good evening, Renly Paiva, and I'm speaking on behalf of the CCEA. The budget for the CCEA accepted by this board in July was $339,403,276.12. Our current budget now stands, according to what was presented by Ms. Legecko, at $344,158,397.06, an increase in revenue of almost $5 million. The teachers of Clay County would not like to see this board put every cent of this money in an unassigned reserve fund. Until this board rules on the special magistrate's report and recommendations, we feel that it would be prudent to keep the new monies in the general fund. We are hopeful that this board will do the right thing and allow the people of Clay County to address you during the special meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paiva. Okay, Ms. Victoria Kidwell.
My name is Victoria Kidwell, and I'm a teacher here at Clay County. My address is on file. I wish to address the budget amendment. In the third calculation, an additional, I believe, $6.2 million was funded to the district for added students that were in our classrooms. Teachers have served these students in their classrooms, in many classrooms, well over the cap for the class size amendment. I ask that you not allocate these budget dollars until the hearing for the special magistrate has been set and people have had a chance to speak. As you know, Clay County Board is at impasse, and that was because no common ground could be reached. We called in that third party, a specialist, to recommend compromise. a compromise has been recommended. And even though the recommendations of the special magistrate did not favor teachers on all counts, the teachers feel that, given the financial situation, they should all be accepted by the board. Throughout this entire year, teacher morale has been really low. We feel we've been treated unfairly in negotiations and that the district is unwilling to compromise in any way with us. In fact, there has even been a move to silence citizens and teachers from speaking until after the board has made critical decisions. Even though we have not settled the contract, teachers have faithfully fulfilled our responsibilities to the children of Clay. For nearly 7 months, we've been working without a contract. We're weary, but we're still hopeful that our county will choose to do the right thing, accept the compromise recommendations, and settle last year's contract. It's almost time to start again next year. There's $6.2 million, which should make compromise a lot easier for Clay County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kidwell. Okay, Mr. Smitty Huffman.
Smitty Huffman, my information is on file. As usual, I started off to say one thing, now I'm going to say another, so here we go. First of all, my concern about the quasi-judicial hearing, and it's a policy in the school board, and I realize that. We had one of those when we had Mike Ford incident. Mike Ford incident with 2 unbiased judges in 2 different hearings. They decided and made this as the part of their final judgment in both of those hearings. One was an unemployment hearing, and one was a hearing for professional practices. That there was an incomplete investigation from Clay County Schools in the incident. Information provided by Human Resources inconsistent with the facts. Witnesses testifying for Clay County Schools not credible with the facts. And no reasonable explanation for Clay County Schools not to provide unemployment benefits. In addition to that, they found that the ESE department provided information not consistent or credible with the facts, and the witnesses for Clay County Schools were not credible for the facts.
Mr. Huffman, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What does this have to do with item C19 budget amendment?
Oh, I'm going to explain that. That's included.
Okay, all right.
All right. The expense for the legal fees for this particular quasi-judicial hearing where people were not allowed to speak, which was at a school board meeting, all right, and the expense for the legal fees for Clay County Schools for this particular incident was over $200,000. Okay. Now, the next thing I would say is the cost to the teacher and his career and family for 3 years on this issue, it still hasn't been settled, even though the state has reinstated his certification. So the term quasi-judicial hearing concerns me, and I know you were not involved in that. So I'm not saying that about you, and I know you weren't involved in that with the Human Resources Department. So this is not a personal thing. That is a policy that is rarely used in the state of Florida as a quasi-judicial hearing. So that cost the county $200,000. The next thing I would say is there's 2 decisions of this current school board at the very first meeting of this current school board. All right. And can I have like 30 more seconds?
Yeah, you
okay.
can. Well, right. you can have about 15.
All right. Okay.
I interrupted.
All right. Okay. And one of those decisions was that lawyers could not introduce agenda items. That was at the very first meeting. That was voted on by the school board. The second thing was the superintendent's ability to spend the original $3,000 without board approval has been raised to $50,000. And I do understand that a lobbyist was hired. And actually, I think the lobbyist is probably a good idea. However, the last decision by the school board was not to hire a lobbyist. So, and a lobbyist position in the state of Florida is one of the positions that school boards are allowed to hire. Okay. So, I just wanted to point that out. The other thing is all these decisions were unbiased judges that made these decisions, including the information in the current impasse. And there's $6.2 million that's been added. And the unbiased judge suggests three things. Number one, that it was not unreasonable to pay new hire, or it was unreasonable to pay new hires 3 years higher on the salary than current employees. Two, it was reasonable to pay teachers at least $1,000 to raise the level closer to the state average, as long as there was increase in the budget, which there was 6.2. And then the last thing that the unbiased judge recommended was that Clay County schools pay a portion of the health benefits, because they haven't done that since 2007.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Huffman.
thank you.
Time's way up. Sorry. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. That was like 5 minutes. That's all right. Okay, item C19, budget amendments. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Have a motion for approval by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Okay, Ms. Karakis.
Well, I pulled both of these, and really I can talk about them both at once, C19 and C20, just for the simple fact that I wanted to make sure that all 5 board members were aware, since we are responsible for the budget, that is, budget and policy falls solely on us, that we were all in agreement, or the majority or whatever, to put this extra, and really it's the 6.4 minus the categoricals, the replacement of allocations, and terminal pay, which really leaves 2.5, to putting this 2.5 in the reserve balance. And not just, it was placed there in January without any discussion, and, I don't know if the superintendent spoke to any of you, but certainly not me about it. And I think as board members we have a responsibility to the citizens, to our constituents, to our children, for us to be making that decision. And so it's okay if that's what you want to do. I just want to make sure that we're all aware that that is where it's going. And I almost think that it would be better at this point, based on what they've just said, to maybe create a new account to put that extra 2.5 in, not put it in the general fund or the reserve fund, and put it off to the side until we do settle this special magistrate and decide where we're going from there. I know years ago when we had that race to the top dollars, we put it in the reserve fund balance, and I don't remember the amount at the time, somebody else probably does. It was like maybe $12 million. And, if you look at our fund balance, all of a sudden it spikes up for 2 or 3 years, and then it comes back down as if we actually had that money. But that money was earmarked for something else that couldn't be used. So I just felt very strong that before we just approve this in the consent agenda, that this is really important to make sure that we're all aware. And, we have 2 new board members on that, you're doing, you're understanding, I know, but just to make sure that everybody's aware that this extra money is going in the fund balance. And I just felt that it was something as a board, we, the 5 of us, the 5 board members, should possibly discuss, or, it should be our decision if that's where we want it to go. And that's why I pulled it, because I just felt it was too important to be in the consent agenda and just slipped right through. It's on January's financials, nobody's looking, just approve it, we're done. So I just wanted to make sure that you're all aware that that's where this is going. And like I said, my suggestion would be to maybe create an account to put that in, to decide what we want to use that for if we need to. And our original plan that was voted on last year was to get to 2.58 by the end of this year. So maybe put enough in there to get to 2.58 and put the remainder in another account and follow our plan the way we were doing it. I just think that, putting it all in at this point and then, having to decide what to do with it after that is probably, it's just not my idea of the right thing to do. So that's why I pulled it.
I just don't understand how it could not be the right thing to do to meet state mandates. I mean, I don't think that the district needs our approval to make sure our balance is where the state mandates it be.
Well, we sent a letter back with a plan of where we were going with it.
But you can't change, the state does not mandate 2.58%. The state mandates 3%. So just because the board votes to do something different than what the state mandates doesn't mean that the board's vote gets to trump what state statute says.
Yeah, let me chime in on that. Actually, I was looking through the budget amendments myself. I had a couple of other questions that I've already spoken to Dr. Legutko about on some items on there. But yeah, I'm not real sure about what you're talking about. First of all, you're saying 2.5 million extra dollars going into an extra account. Here's the thing. When we decided when we said let's get to 2.58, we chose that number because that's the best we thought we could do. Okay? However, if the tide be turned and we're able to do better than that, that's what we need to be doing. That's the right thing to do. We need to get to 3%, and we need to get this district healthy before we start thinking about creating other accounts and stashing money in other places. We have to get healthy first. That's, excuse me, could I please have some quiet in the room? That's what we need to do. That's just my take. What I saw on this, the budget amendments, what I saw the total adjusted estimated revenue, and then I saw the adjustment to the appropriations with a net difference of $26,494. And that was what concerned me, because that $26,494 comes out of the fund balance. And so I was a little concerned about that. And as I started looking through the line items on the revenue and the expenditures, there were some things in there, and I've spoken to Ms. Legutko or Dr. Legutko about those already today. Specifically, a couple of things that have to do with, if you guys go through, if you look at the line items on there and you go to the third page where it's under general fund, I was concerned about one area where looked like we were saving money from energy services and moving it over to material supplies. And there's a lot of moving money around, which I understand we need to do that, but in one of the other departments, they actually had to increase their energy services. And so it was important. Dr. Legutko had told me that we could have used that money to help cover, energy services in the other departments. So I just think it's important that before we do that, that Dr. Legutko has full line of sight on those kind of issues, because ultimately it's impacted our expenditures by $26,000, which comes out of the fund balance. So that's my concern. If we are saying that we're going to be at 3%, which is I think what we said last month, then we need to do everything that we can to be there. And so there's a number of questions in here. I'm not going to go through them all, but Dr. Legutko knows what they are, and she'll address them appropriately with her staff. So that's what I wanted to say about the budget amendment, so thank you for pulling them. But I do feel very strongly about that we need to get to 3% if we can. We need to get where we can, and then once we get to 3%, then we can start talking about other things. So
well, it's nice to know that we're all reading the budget and that you were aware, because I just wanted to make sure that this is something that the board is aware of and that it's not just being pushed through.
No, I think we're all reading it. Okay, Ms. Condon.
I have a few things to say. One is that I did kind of take offense to that comment about the consent agenda. I read the consent agenda cover to cover, and in fact, I go in and spend time with senior staff and get my questions asked, and I don't wait for them to call me. If I have questions, actually, Dr. Legutko and I spend quite a bit of time talking through my questions and things like that. And because I do that, one of the things that I know that a phrase that she uses all the time that is accounting ease is generally accepted accounting practices. And to go and create another account to put the money in, you can't just go do that. That's moving money around into different books and things that you can't just do. She has very specific rules about where she can put money. Excuse me, we have a board policy that talks about how conduct is to be at board meetings, and I'd appreciate respect. Please, thank you. And then lastly, I would just say that we all received the same letter from Linda Champion, and it was specifically addressed to us as board members and the superintendent, and it expressly said that we were not to allocate money to any other
things beyond our budget that was approved in September outside of meeting our fund balance. And, you know, once we received that letter from her, I mean, that was, I don't know how everyone else felt about it, but to see my name addressed on there was eye-opening, to see that she's holding us, she and the rest of DOE are holding us accountable to get that fund balance back where they expect it to be before we go and do other things.
Any other comments, Ms. Stutter? Do you have anything? Or
boy, things like this bring out the worst in people, doesn't it?
I don't think so.
I have a question of Dr. Legutko. On this 2.5 that's going to be put in the reserve, after backing out the categoricals, the allocations, and the terminal pay, we've talked about this many times. If that's put into the reserve fund, I'm trying not to get into a legal situation since we are in negotiate or at impasse. I don't want to go there.
Well, then don't.
But what I would like to know is if that's in the reserve, the board would have the, I guess I should ask the attorney this. The board could, if they deemed at a later date for a need for some of that reserve money, the board could take that back out of the reserve, could they not?
Before I would tell you yes, I'd have to double check that. Off the top of my head, I don't think so, but I don't know. What I would have to do is I'd have to do some research, and I'll be happy to get with Dr. Legutko and take a look at it. But I don't think going in, rating that balance or that reserve is something that we can do just
willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly. There's got to be a process to it.
Willy-nilly, I'm talking about for if you had a purpose.
Well, you're also talking about violating state statute. I mean, if we have a minimum requirement of 3% and you go in and rate it and drain it below.
Ms. McKinnon, I waited patiently for all of y'all to talk, and I would appreciate it if you'd give me the same opportunity.
That's fine.
We all know that we have been in a difficult financial state here lately. I was thinking about this meeting that Ms. Karakis referred to. We had it at the Professional Development Center. I think Dr. Copeland was still here then, wasn't he? You weren't here yet, were you? Wasn't Dr. Copeland still here? And you ladies were on the board, okay? Because I was trying to think how long ago that has been. But at that time, if you'll remember, they presented to us to get to 3%. This is the type of things you would have to do. A, B, C, D, E. We all said no. The district can't stand that. We would be in terrible shape. We can't do this to our employees. We can't do this to our students. So the board, through that afternoon, came up with a plan that if we tightened up and we did A and B, we can get to 2.58, I believe was the number. Is that right? By the end of the year, and then at the end of the next year, we will go to the 3%. But we will do it in a way that it hurts, but it doesn't kill us. And so I was comfortable, and I think we were all comfortable with that because that's the way it is. Now, here's where the dilemma comes in, and it's to me, it's a dilemma. It's not apparently to some of you, but we did get this extra 6.4, and by the time you back out the categoricals, the allocations to cover the allocations that we had already approved, and the terminal pay, that left 2.5, and it was placed over in the reserve fund, which makes good sense. I mean, that makes really good sense. And I heard Mr. Van Zandt on TV say, this gets us to 3%, whoopee, you know, and I thought, well, that's good. But then something else came into play over these last few weeks in my mind. We have 5,000 employees whose health insurance continues to rise but they don't get raises, and they're actually making less money than because of the cost of the health insurance going up, which we can't help. I mean, all the school districts in the state of Florida are held captive by these health insurance. We're doing the best we can, but gone are the days where the single employee, was free. I mean, I wish it was that way again, but in my mind, and I don't want to get into the impasse situation, this is why I'm almost afraid to say anything, but in my mind I'm thinking, it kind of reminds me of last month when we were going to move everybody everywhere, and we were just going to do it. We had a motion and a second, and it was going to be gone away. I just think that we probably need to give this some deep thought. And so from what I am understanding Mr. Sykes to say, or
Well,
if we vote on this tonight, once that money is put in there, it's gone and you can't touch it. Is that
No,
correct?
that's not true.
That's not what I'm saying either. There are consequences of it that I think that we need to talk to Dr. Legutko. It impacts our credit rating, and there's other legal aspects of it, and it's broad-based. And so, because my job is to give you guys conservative advice so you don't go out on the limb and get in trouble, before we do that, I would like to talk to Dr. Legutko and take a look at all of the statutory requirements, because if we've got the 3% fund balance, there's adverse consequences for us to go back and rate it. And so all I'm saying is I'm preaching caution.
We actually don't vote on item C20. That's the monthly
Right.
financial report.
It's
and
a
that's-
report.
Yes.
Yep. Yes, go ahead.
I'm a little confused. Dr. Legutko laid all this out very clearly to you on January 21st in an email that I have with me tonight, exactly where all this money would be recognized, to include exactly what you see in front of you tonight. I constantly urge you, invite you in to talk, to meet with staff, to come meet you somewhere, discuss anything you'd like. And on the morning of the school board meeting, somebody can't remember that we're trying to get to 3%, or that there's a state statute that requires it, or that every year since I've been superintendent that I've had to write that letter and then give assurances to the state, as long as we're between 2 and 3%, that we will strive to get back to 3%. And if we fall below 2%, which we have not, then I would have to produce that plan Ms. Karakas mentioned. We haven't given them a plan. We've just given them our word. Ms. Studdard, you've sat in meetings with me on conference calls with Fitch Rating, assuring them we would try to get back to 3%, trying to protect our fund balance as board chair. Two of these ladies were not on the school board at the meeting you're recollecting with Dr. Copeland, and there was a plan to get back to 3% then, and the majority of the board wouldn't support it, which is, I guess, your prerogative. But at this point, when we have the money, it's in the right budget lines. We are projected to be at 3%, and as long as our attendance and enrollment holds in the second count, the fourth calculation should reflect that. We're never exactly sure till we get the calculation, but it's my job as superintendent, one, to literally answer the mail from the DOE and from the Florida legislature as a constitutional officer. I did swear an oath to uphold the Constitution, and that Constitution's interpreted further to me through Florida statutes, which I aim on meeting everyone that I possibly can, and since we have the ability to meet it, I think that we should. So, and I guess the biggest thing I'm confused about, that it's February 23rd, you received all this on January 21st, and if you really had big concerns, I'd just like to know earlier so we can get you these answers before we waste everybody's time here at a board meeting. So thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Ms. McKenna, may I address that?
Yes, Mr.
Mr. Van Zant, the plan for the 2.58 was actually unanimous. We all did agree on that when we approved that prior to these two board members coming on. It wasn't shot down. And I kind of take offense to you thinking that you're the only person we can speak to. The board here is responsible. You compile a budget, you bring it to us, but we're the ones that should be discussing it. So if I pulled this because I wanted to discuss it with my fellow board members, I have every right to do that. and that's why I pulled it, so the 5 of us could discuss it. If the majority of the board wants to go forward and put it where it goes, then that's fine, that will happen. But it will be our vote and our decision, and that's why I pulled it. So I take offense to you reprimanding us or me for pulling something because I didn't run to you and get your approval first. Because I'm not going to run to you and get
I'm
your
not asking anybody to run to me, but it is my job to advise and counsel the board,
It won't-
and I do that. I offer that. The senior staff is at your disposal, and there's no reason to not have dialogue about this ongoing and continuously. If I was a board member below 3%, I'd be talking to somebody that could help us get out of it consistently and constantly, and I'm just reassuring you that we're here to do that.
This is the only time that we as a board can talk.
Right.
That's why thank you.
Okay, all right.
I just would like to say I've
Yeah.
appreciated the discussion.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to know where we all stand on things.
I mean, it's respectful discussion. We're
Right,
just
it has
discussing.
been. It has been for the most
so-
part. um,
I'm ready to move forward if you're
Okay.
ready.
All right, okay. So we had,
Let me ask one question. Do you think that then the state is going to reprimand Clay County if they could get to 2.7 or 2.75 this year and 3 next year? Do you think they're going to come over here and nail us all to the wall?
No, I don't.
Because I'm thinking about 5,000 employees.
I understand what you're saying, and no, I don't think that. But just to kind of clarify, when we took that vote on the 2.58%, we weren't voting that we had the ability to be at 3, but we would only do 2.5. That's not what we were voting on. We voted to 2.5 because that's what we thought was the best that we could do. Now, and so no, I don't think that the state's going to come in and nail us to the wall.
Well-
I don't do that, but I just don't think that it's prudent. On my behalf, we have to be fiscally responsible, and from my perspective, I think that is the fiscally responsible thing to do, is to get out of debt before we move forward. That's all I'm saying.
Well, my feeling about it is we didn't get to the 2.58. We went backwards to
That's right.
2.12, but we got lots of. But so now we've gone from 2.12, and look here, we got all this money. We're going to go to 3, and isn't that wonderful? And y'all just wait a while. Y'all
Well,
just wait a while.
Yeah, but again, the fourth calculation hasn't come in, and we don't know for sure. I mean, other things have happened, right?
I was at the meeting when you all were discussing the 2.58. And if I'm remembering correctly, I remember the plan to get to 3% at that point involved severe cuts. I mean, it was you're taking things away that our employees already had to get to the 3%. In this instance, we can meet the 3% and not take anything away that they currently have. What we're talking about is money that's available.
Excuse me. Could we just please get some quiet in the room? We're trying to have a discussion here, and this is going to be the last warning, okay? We do have a policy that says that there's a certain expected conduct from the people in the audience. We're trying to have meaningful dialogue. We're trying to be respectful. I would appreciate that same due respect back. Thank you.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Am I making sense okay.
I think the cuts probably were made a year ago when we said that 2.58. So, they're not looking to cut more. At least I'm thinking that's what we did a year and a half ago, or whenever it was, before you guys got on the board.
Right.
I would also like to remind everyone that last year the fourth calculation came in and we had not lost kids, but no one else around the state had either. And so then I don't remember the exact term, Dr. Legutko, but it's something to the effect of proration, where the state alters the legislature alters the amount of money they send out because they have to send more to everyone else. That could still happen to us in the fourth calculation. It is not a done deal until June 30th that we have the money, and so that's that. But as far as the rest of the conversation and the things, I'm not comfortable with where this is dancing around with the whole.
Just go ahead and take the vote.
Okay, so I had a motion for approval and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries 3-2 with Ms. Karakis and Ms. Studdard descending. Okay.
Ms. McKinnon, on
Yes.
C20,
Yes.
I know Ms. Condon said it's for information only, but if you look at the backup, it actually says recommended action, approval of the monthly financial report for January 31, 2012 as presented.
Yeah.
So I think we probably...
Well, we'll vote on it, but I
vote
remember
on
we
it.
had this discussion a while ago when we all went to our FSBA training. Reports are not something that you have to approve, so that's why we moved them back to the consent agenda originally.
Well, and I think
It's a
what
report.
FSBA actually gave us guidance to was that we are not qualified to approve it because we're not the ones actually doing
right.
the accounting. That's their
Right.
job, and then they're audited by the
Auditor General.
Auditor
yeah.
General's office, and so
So
Right.
maybe we need to put.
So
the-
we're just accepting it. That's all we're doing is we're accepting it into the record. But if you're, Ms. Karakis, if you'd like for us to take a vote because that's the way it's in the agenda tonight, we can certainly do that.
I think we probably should because it was in the consent agenda that
Okay.
way also.
Okay. So item C20, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Gilhousen and a second by Ms. Condon. Any further discussion on item C20? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries 3-2 with Ms. Karakis and Ms. Studdard dissenting. Okay.
So just to be clear, since Ms. Karakis required us to vote on that, are you voting no that you don't accept the financial reports from Dr. Legutko? And if so, is there an error in them, or why are we not accepting them?
We've already discussed why I'm not accepting them.
No, you didn't say anything on that particular one. You were talking about the budget, but not on the financial
When I
report.
started talking about the budget amendments, I said this conversation covers both C19 and C20. So I've already covered it. I'm not repeating myself.
Okay. Okay. Next item is D4, attendance boundaries, realignment for Plantation Oaks Elementary and Oakleaf Village. We have one card on item D4. Christine Perez. I've got two names on here, but only one of you all can speak. Okay. And I do need an actual address on here, or you can state it into the record, one of the two. Okay. If you could just state your name and address for the record.
Christine Perez, 1415 Eagle Crossing Drive, Orange Park, Florida, 32065.
Okay, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for having us and allowing us to speak to you. I've lived in the Oakleaf community for the past 10 years. I moved here in 2006. My husband and I bought our very first home in Eagle Landing in 2006, and there were one school. It was one school. As a matter of fact, it had no grass, and my husband donated the picnic table for the teachers, and we got the builders to donate the sod. We were sold on the community's future plans of incorporating not only another elementary school, but a high school, a junior high, and actually 3 elementary schools. Eventually, these schools would accommodate the planned community's development. So 10 years later, I'm here to petition your attention, as well as on behalf of many, many concerned parents, regarding the overgrowth and the situation at Plantation Oaks Elementary specifically. I witnessed the fall of the real estate market, and now I'm feeling the growth, and it frankly is an answer to prayer. We all are homeowners, and we're thankful for the growth. But the question there lies, why do we not have the money, or why did we not secure the budget from the builders to approve the 3rd school that we talked about 10 years ago, right outside of Eagle Landing, to accommodate the growth? After all, the builders, and a lot of them, I know personally, are selling the properties and the proximity of the schools to their sellers. I mean, it only makes sense. I'd love to buy a home close to my children's school. And along those lines, I know that had they been asked, they probably would have committed. So Again, I'm here today with the petition of several other parents for you all to consider our children and specifically their safety at Poe next year. I am told, and please correct me if I don't have the facts, I am told that there are 1,313 children enrolled in Plantation Oaks Elementary currently, and we are expecting another 345 in the fall. I would like you to make it a priority to look at the safety of my 7-year-old who is there. I challenge you to be at that school. Please go look at the lunchroom. Please witness who is monitoring the lunchroom. We have janitorial staff who is monitoring the lunchroom. Are they trained if a child starts choking? Do we have more than one nurse for 1,313 students? Or is she at the front of the building with the, where's the AED? I ask you to consider, when we have inclement weather, moving 500 to 600 children in the cafeteria that is supposed to hold 400. I ask for you to consider the 1,650 next year, and I have to tell you that I have always believed in Clay County. My role, I work here, I recruit physicians to this county. I have to be honest with you, the last 3 conversations I've had with physicians, they have brought up the fact that they have seen or they have heard that we're having issues. That doesn't make my job easy. And we have so much industry coming out to Cecil Field. We have so much growth in Clay County and everything that I've been proud of. And I know that that's a big picture, but the schools, that's the reason why you buy homes if you have children.
Okay,
you
thank
check
you.
that out first.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
Okay,
thank you
I
very much. I
apologize.
appreciate that.
So, in closing, I ask you to consider, because you've been entrusted with the decision making, and you have been entrusted to take care of our teachers who are stellar, and I feel that they're overloaded and they're stressed. Please consider all avenues to make our kids safe. Please consider getting a budget to alleviate the overcrowding, build the school, or redistrict and rezone as you have been entrusted to do.
Thank you. Okay, that was the only card we had on D4. I'll entertain a motion. Let me just read it. D4 is the attendance boundary realignment for Plantation Oaks Elementary and Oakleaf Village Elementary Schools. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. D5. D5 is to reclassify Argyle Elementary School from a pre-K to 5 to a pre-K to 6th grade. I do not have any cards on D5, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the next item is D6, attendance boundary realignment for Rideout Elementary Schools, Doctors Inlet Elementary, Patterson Elementary, Charles E. Bennett Elementary, and Lake Asbury Elementary School. I do have one card on this one. Mr. Keith Nichols.
Yes, ma'am. Keith Nichols, and my address is on the card. And I have spoken to this before on several occasions, and I just wanted to point out to y'all that once again,
Reset.
That was quick.
That was quick.
Anyway, I just wanted to point out again that Shadowlawn is not even mentioned in this. And right now, we still have kids that live in the walk zone for Lake Asbury Elementary that's being bused to Shadowlawn. And I want to know why Shadowlawn is not being considered for any of the movement, considering the last time I saw the core numbers for Shadowlawn, they were at like 75%, right around there. Them and Lake Asbury Elementary both. And there's no movement made to bring any kids over to them. Right now, I just want to answer a question that Ms. Studdard had. Ms. Studdard, you all have been at below 3% since 2012. So if they were going to come nail you to the wall, they would have already had you in handcuffs. And one of the things I want to cover that the superintendent said in his presentation, where he was talking about we're climbing to the top 10. Well, last year we were ranked number 17, and this year we're ranked number 18. So unless we're doing fuzzy math, that's actually going backwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval on item D6.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Gilhousen and a second by Ms. Condon. Any discussion?
I'd like to ask a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Merrill, what is the enrollment at Shadowlawn? And I mean, not to get into the nuts and bolts on it, but I'm sure, I know that with Charles E. Bennett, it came from the east side. And so, I mean, just to satisfy the answer, what
I can get the exact number for you. I don't know right now. It's I'm not even going to hazard a guess. I didn't look at Shadowlawn. There is a follow-on for redistricting in years to come that will address Shadowlawn.
Yeah. I just wondered if it's, you know, at capacity or below, or
No, it's not at capacity, but it's not at low capacity either.
yeah, okay. But so Shadowlawn really didn't come into play.
Not for this year, no.
Okay.
I was just curious
Yeah.
because it was asked, and I thought, well,
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Item D7. Attendance boundary realignment for Plantation Oaks Elementary School and Tynes Elementary School. I don't have a yellow card, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Motion for approval by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. And then lastly, item D8 is attendance boundary realignments for Green Cove Springs Junior High School, Wilkinson Junior High, and Lake Asbury Junior High School. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Motion for approval by Ms. Condon, second by Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. And then D9, attendance boundary realignments for Clay High School and Middleburg High School.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Motion for approval by Ms. Gilhousen, second by Ms. Condon. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. And then lastly, item, yes, yeah.
I just want to commend Mr. Merrill for coming back with
Yeah.
maps that were less painful than last month.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's going to affect less
Very
people.
few, yeah.
And so, thank you, Mr. Merrill.
Yes.
You're welcome.
I would echo Ms. Carrick's sentiments, and I also wanted to say that I, as the new liaison to the BCC, I did actually have a conversation with Commissioner Chairwoman Hutchings and about this, because I had questions about it and about the questions that came up that we hadn't planned. And while the school district had planned and the plans for school number 3 were out there, what she explained to me was that over the past few years, a number of those pieces of property were zoned light industrial and not planned to have families on them have been rezoned as residential. One of the ones, the new ones that's coming, Arbor Mill, was supposed to be a town center originally, and now it's going to have 1,000 homes. So Mr. Merrill does have his work cut out for him, and I echo your sentiments, Ms. Carrickus, that I know he's only been in the position for 18 months and really works hard for us in that, and to really understand the impact of how things have changed out there.
I would also just like to add that I think we are all aware that the housing market is bouncing back, especially in the northern part of our county, and this isn't a problem that's going away. I think we're going to have more of this in the future, especially since we didn't do some more drastic measures this time around. So I think it's something we all need to be considering and talking about and building a consensus for what we think is a palatable decision.
Right. And I just would also like to echo Ms. Carrick's sentiments, but I also want to throw a kudos out to Ms. Cornegay and Ms. Emily Weisskopf for handling a terrific parent meeting out at Argyle Elementary School, in which we got all those parents together, and it was a great meeting. It was a workshop where everybody was engaged in coming up with ideas and solutions on how we could resolve this problem and affect as few people as possible. So they did a great job in leading that, and I know myself, Ms. Studdard, Ms. Carrickas were there, and it was truly a collaborative, in the spirit of collaboration, it was truly a collaborative event, and kudos to Mr. Merrill for making it all happen. So good job on everybody's. Ms. Studdard.
Let me make a comment,
Yeah.
please. Mr. Merrill, when you first showed me this, remember what I said about redistricting? I said, you've never been through this before, have you? Now you've been through it. Now you get it, right? It's not the most fun one can have. But as far as the lady who spoke about the Eagle Landing School, when we did get property for a high school or junior high and the 3 elementary schools, but I just want to make it clear, we can't just sit up here and decide that we're going to build a school. It's a lot more complicated than that. We have to show a need to the state, and we have other schools that are underutilized, and the powers that be would have us put our children on a bus and bus them 25 miles because you've got available spaces there. So there's a lot of things that come into play besides not having any money. We know the land is there, and we certainly would, if we could, tomorrow we would say, let's go break ground and build that elementary school, because if we had Eagle Landing Elementary, there would be no problems about overcrowding, and one day hopefully we can do that. We ran into a similar situation in Fleming Island. We still have property here for a junior high that all the residents in Fleming Island have been waiting for years and years and years, and who knows when we're ever going to be able to build another junior high. But the property's there. We want to build a school there, but right now we just can't do it. But we're certainly, and when we were studying all these maps and looking at them, I thought, boy, if we just had that school there at the near Eagle Landing, we'd be all set. But we just have to be patient and do the best we can.
Mrs. McKinnon, I have a question along that same line. Mrs. Gilhousen said that, obviously this is not going away. So my question is this something that our advisory board, that parent and business advisory board could start to take a look at, that we have representation from throughout the county on there from all of us, business and parents at elementary and high school grade levels? So it just occurs to me that maybe they could come up with some ideas to come back to us with over the next 12 months that might help.
I would love some board workshops about this issue in particular. I feel like the demographics, so to speak, are shifting a little bit. Where Orange Park used to be a high population of young families, it's not anymore. And we have a lot of schools with a lot of capacity there. And then we have overcrowding at Oakleaf. I mean, it's just the population base is changing. And I think that it's a conversation that the board needs to start having. And maybe if we start, a year before we're going to make any changes, we can have good dialogue about it and come up with some.
You just don't know what you have just said. Okay.
No, I do know what I have just said. I do know what I have just said.
Mrs. Studdard, speaking from experience of having done it years and years.
It's
and
painful,
years.
but that's what we're elected to do. We're elected to make the tough decisions.
You're right. At workshops, we should.
I would agree.
Do that.
Okay. All right. So we have before us item D10. D10 is the authorization to compile the approved attendance zone realignment items into a single public advertisement and notification to municipalities. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Motion for approval by Ms. Studdard
Second.
and a second by Ms. Condon. Any final discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, presentations from the audience. I've got a few cards here. So we'll start off with Pamela Jordan. Okay, if you guys could just please remember to try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, Ms. Jordan.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Pamela Jordan, and I'm a teacher here in Clay County. I'm just here to urge you to please accept the special magistrate's decisions on the issues that were submitted to him. Each item that we asked the magistrate to consider and to make a judgment on was reasonable and well within the realm of possibility. If any of you doubt that teachers deserve a raise in pay and reasonably priced health insurance, I would challenge you to spend a day teaching my classes. I challenge you to deal with the behaviors and the myriad other issues that all of us deal with on a daily basis. I challenge you to work my 10 and 11-hour day, because what we are asked to do cannot be done in 7.5 hours. I challenge you not to leave at the end of the day emotionally and physically drained. Finally, I challenge you, after all of this, to tell teachers they do not deserve a raise and the respect of this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Tricia Brest.
This down some. Hi, my name is Tricia Brest, and my address is on the card.
Okay.
Several years ago, when my kids were very young, they asked a friend of mine if their daddy was dead. At that time, my husband was XO of a U.S. Navy S-3 squadron, and a jet in his squadron had crashed. We lost 2 men in that crash, and due to my husband's position, I knew I'd be having a lot of people over to my house, and we would be having conversations that were not for young children's ears. For that reason, I had a close friend of mine take my children to her house. As much as my friend tried to protect them, they heard similar discussions at her house, too. My children had not seen their father that day, and they weren't able to go home, and they were hearing about a plane crashing. Being the intuitive children that they were at that age, they pulled my friend aside and said, "Is our daddy dead?" I tell you this story tonight because I know that shortly you will be deciding whether or not to accept the recommendations from the mediator concerning teacher continuing contracts. I would like you to think about those of us who have been part of military families and how that has impacted our teaching careers. Though we may love our jobs and as teachers, we often have to choose between our chosen careers and our families. I come to you as a teacher who had earned my professional contract while I was teaching in Clay County. However, due to military orders, my husband was relocated to California for 2 to 3 years. I had to make a decision to move to California with my husband or stay here in Florida. Making that decision was not made lightly. I had to think of my family and my role in it. I had to decide between a job I loved and the family that was my life. After a couple of years out there, we moved back to Fleming Island, and I tried to get a teaching job. The timing was not right, and the jobs were not available. However, in 2011, the time was right, and I was able to be rehired as a teacher in Clay County. This was answered prayer. Unfortunately, I was hired 1 month after the new regulations stating that newly hired teachers would no longer be eligible for the continuing contracts. Because I had moved away and moved back, no matter what the reason, I lost my professional continuing contract, and I'm not eligible to get it back. Tonight, I ask you, as you consider the recommendations of the mediator regarding continuing contract language, I ask that you consider those of us who have relocated not because of our own choice, but those of our military. I ask you to please consider including language that would protect those of us whose spouses have had to relocate and give up their positions of schools so that we would not lose our continuing contract status that has been earned. I ask you, if it were your children that had been put in that situation where they had to ask the question, is our daddy dead? What would your decision have been? Your job or your family? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Miss Donna Mace.
Good evening. My name is Donna Mace, and my information is on my card. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of the families that are choosing to opt out beginning next week of the FAFSA. I'd like to begin with this quote from Alfie Kohn. High-stakes standardized tests are not like the weather, something to which we must resign ourselves. They are not a force of nature, but a force of politics. And political decisions, you guys need to listen to this, can be questioned, challenged, and ultimately reversed. Teachers, parents, and students can turn their frustration into action, I don't know why I'm shaking tonight, and successfully turn back the testing juggernaut in order to create classrooms that focus on learning. Okay? Now, to make sure we're all clear next week, Ms. Cornegay and I have spoken, and these are her suggestions. If a child is not testing, we are being asked to keep them home if we can the day the test is originally administered. That eliminates a lot of confusion, and the child won't have to sit and stare. On a makeup day, the child will be given the opportunity to either break the seal or sign on the computer and complete the directions given by the test administrator. The child will answer no questions and then will submit the test as completed. Third grade students are being offered the opportunity to take the SAT 10 instead of the FAFSA, or they have the portfolio option also. 10th grade students, their parents know the child will need to take the ACT or the SAT and earn the appropriate concordant score in order to graduate if they don't take the FAFSA. I think, is that what we agreed on, I think, in our conversation? That's what I've shared with the other parents in Clay County. Some of them will not be able to keep their children home the day of testing, and they know their child will have to sit and stare. We understand for FAFSA rights that that's a state law this year. They wanted to make it a little harder for us. So the parents will be making individual decisions about notifying their child's school about their intent to refuse the test. I'll be glad to pass on any other information that the district thinks is important for our parents. And we keep talking about the state and their mandates, and I had a whole nother ending. But first, be sure if you haven't been that you go to floridachannel.org and you see what the House has been doing to us this week. It's not kind. And here's what I've been living by lately. Stop asking why they keep doing it and start asking why you keep allowing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Lacey Ingram.
My name is Lacey Ingram, and I live at 3570 Russell Road. I'm a student at Lake Asbury Junior High. I will not be taking the FSA. I have been invited to join NJHS, National Juniors Honor Society. The same week, I received a letter inviting me to stay after school for tutoring to prepare for the FSA. It happened because I get low scores on the standardized tests, but high grades at school. I don't test well because every time I test, I panic. Every time I panic, I end up guessing answers on the test. It would make kids around the state stress-free and teachers preparing and taking the test. So some kids get so freaked out that they cry and feel like a failure. Teachers are freaked out because, for example, one of my teachers said, "I don't like the idea of this test because all of my classes end up with so much homework. I stay up all, and they stay up all night, and she stays up all night grading papers." I don't think that teachers should be evaluated on my test scores. Please help in high stress testing. And I would also like to say that I was accepted into National Juniors Honor Society. Thank you.
Thank you. Lillian Raposa.
Hello. My name is Lillian Raposa, and I live on 3570 Russell Road. I'm a student at Green Cove Springs Junior High, and I will not be taking FAFSA this year. I have AB Honor Roll, and I've been working hard to keep it that way this year. And I was asked to have FAFSA tutoring because I don't score well. I have really bad ability to taking tests because I get really nervous and second-guess myself. And my teachers want me to be in high classes, but they can't put me in them because I don't get good grades on these FAFSA. Now, I know teachers try hard to make sure that we are ready for the test, but not all of us can test well. Just imagine you're in a room and all you hear is clicking, and you stress out because you know you can pass it. You say you can do it. You say you can do it. But when you finally get the answers, they go blank because you're under so much stress of what will happen to you. A lot of teachers know we can do this, but a lot of kids have problems taking tests. Now, I can understand you want to make sure we know what we're doing in these classes, but you don't have to put such a big stress on a test, maybe like an EOC or an end-of-semester test. Just an easy, not really an easy one, but a good test to help us, not this big test that can impact us in the long run. I hope you'll take my words into consideration for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Brown.
My name is Cheryl Brown. My address is on the card. I request that you continue to allow teachers and school employees, the taxpayers of Clay County, the freedom of speech afforded by the Constitution. On behalf of the teachers at my school and in my district, I request that you accept the unbiased recommendation of the special magistrate. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Mayberry.
Laura Mayberry, Clay County teacher, and my address is on file. Special Magistrate Leonard Helfand has a bachelor's degree in economics. He earned his law degree from the University of Miami, and as an FSU fan, I will forgive him for this egregious error in judgment. He's worked as a mediator, arbitrator, and special magistrate since 2007. He is a former city commissioner and vice mayor of North Miami Beach. He attended the Cornell University Labor Management Relations Institute, and I have it on good authority that he stayed in a Holiday Inn Express last night. Special Magistrate Leonard Helfand agrees with the teachers of Clay County. He stated in his ruling that treating teachers as valuable, respected professionals with job security is in the interest and welfare of the citizens and families who utilize our school system. We are asking you to stop hiding behind your rigid interpretation of state law and make a bold move to support your teachers. Many other counties in Florida have done this, and they have not received pushback from the state. The special magistrate also agrees that we should receive seat time points for in-service trainings. If I had an in-service point for every time a trainer said, "You're probably already doing this in your classroom, we're just calling it something different," I could recertify until I'm 80. And at the rate things are going, I'll probably still be working here. The special magistrate also agrees that the board should increase their insurance contribution. He also agrees that we should have contract language that prevents new hires from being paid a higher salary than current employees with their same level of experience. If you're worried that this will hurt your ability to hire new people, how do you think they'll feel once they get here and find out they're never going to see a pay increase? It's a bait and switch, and it's not fair. The special magistrate also agrees that a $1,000 salary adjustment would be justified and reasonable if the money were available. And since we didn't see a penny of the third calc, we believe that the fourth calculation can and should be used to satisfy this demand. Least known President Benjamin Harrison once said, "I pity the man who wants a coat so cheap that the man or woman who produces the cloth will starve in the process." I would like to congratulate this board on meeting its fund balance tonight, but you might want to think about who you're starving in the process.
Thank you. Renalee Paiva.
Good evening. I'm going to switch up for you in a second. I'm going to talk about concerning your board workshop on March 8th. By this board's action of agreeing to put the unbudgeted monies of $2.4 million into the reserve fund of the District of Clay is now above the 3% unassigned fund balance, something that you have not been able to do in 3 years. You've done. Budgets reflect priorities. Therefore, the CCA has no interest in being a part of any workshop concerning the raising of taxes in Clay County. In fact, the CCA does not support any raising of the property tax, nor do we support any raising of the sales tax. We believe that raising sales tax will put a huge burden on the citizens of Clay County. Clay County is not a tourist destination, as St. John's is. It is not an urban county, as Duval is. So raising a sales tax would be paid for over and over again by the citizens of Clay. Most of the teachers of Clay live in Clay, play in Clay, and eat in Clay. So the burden of increasing the revenue falls squarely back on the very people that I am trying to get a livable wage for. The very people who have not received any increase from this district's general fund since 2009. Therefore, let me be clear. The district received the second highest fourth calculation last year of $4.1 million, the second highest in the state. It received an $8.1 million new dollars in the beginning of the school year and a huge third calculation of $6.2 million. We believe with the added students' revenue that the board should display better oversight as it pertains to the expenditures at the district. The CCA believes there is no need to increase anyone's taxes, but rather a huge need to be better judgment and use better insight when deciding the district's budget. Budgets reflect priorities. Priorities that so far leave the employees of Clay County out of. You know, Ms. McKenna, you said a little while ago, you kind of shocked that you got to 3% so quickly?
I didn't say I was shocked.
Okay, well, you had a plan to get to 2.5%, but you got to 3%, and you did it faster than your plan was. Well, you did it on the backs of the employees of Clay County.
Thank you, Ms. Paiva. Mr. James Otto, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. James Otto, 2908 Blanding Boulevard. It is what it is. If I can finish first, please. But I checked off the boxes, and what you read from was under not on the agenda. Okay. I'm here due to the Board of County Commissioners with the SOBs, talking about secondary effects. No full impact fee is an issue to the two ladies that were up here earlier. That plays an issue on y'all's budget. No sales tax is needed. I agree with the last young lady that was here. Other schools like you have removed football because of injury and death, and I'm asking you to do that. Remove football from our schools that are required by law. I hear schools are a real issue other than right here, and you yourselves are saying you're below the 3%. Oakleaf alone is a problem. You know, housing sales are up and enrollment's down. You know, put your staff first, teachers, bus drivers, cooks, and the others. You have money for football? Do the right thing. League of Denial was given to the school board. It's about brain damage. Y'all should read it. Doctors for every school required by law for people that are 16 and under should have a doctor. with the pills, the suicides, and the other issues, you know, who better than a doctor to be taking care of these kids in schools? Public record request was made months and months ago on the money spent on football in this school system. It was responded to months later, but there was no totals. This one over here tells me that she needed something wrote out a little bit better than that. And I'm just saying the same thing. Give me the totals on how much you spent on football. That's not too dang difficult. You need to look at gambling, secondary effects, the roadway in where Orange Park is trying to close over their tenants. More so the scratch-offs that attract kids. Think if you were an addict. Let's go online for gambling. Remove it from the stores, period. Put it online. There's no reason for them to be trying to attract these kids with the lottery scratch-offs that they got in every school, or I'm sorry, every store out there has got these things. Right there where the kids can see them. It's absurd. It really is.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Otto. Thank you, Mr. Otto. Next up is Miss Rebecca Smith.
My name is Rebecca Smith. My address is on file. I would like to speak to you this evening about impasse. As you know, I've stood here many times speaking on behalf of support people and as well as teachers. We're all hurting out here, as you know. Y'all, every time we turn around, we hear, wait till the third calculation, wait till the second calculation, now it's wait till the fourth calculation. We've been waiting for over 6 years for a step increase. So we've been working without a contract, doing our job as y'all would like us to do. Now the magistrate has made a decision. The union is going to be respectful. We hope the school board will be too. All we ask is that you do the right thing. That's all we're asking. You can't expect your people to continue on this path and keep good quality people here working for you. We represent Clay County, and I'm glad because I live here. My grandchildren go to school here. My children graduated from here. I'm very proud of Clay County. But we need to make decisions. You say live within our means. We do. We cannot afford not to. Y'all are stewards of the budget. And it does reflect priorities. And your employees have no, we feel like we don't have no place on that as being priority. Action speaks louder than words. I'd appreciate it if you do the right thing by your people. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Last card is Ms. Butler, Tracy Butler. You're good? Okay. All right. School board requests. Ms. Karakis.
You want me to start?
We'll just go at random.
All right. Well, listening to Ms. Paiva today, that she doesn't want to have a workshop. We called a workshop at the urging of the teachers and our support people, and with the intention of if we were to do something, they would be working very closely with us. And if they're not going to work with us, I think we probably should cancel the workshop. I don't see any reason to have it if they're not bought into it, because it was at their urging that I asked to have a workshop. So depending on what the board wants, I'd be happy to cancel that.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of us that were on the record as saying that we were not interested in raising anybody's taxes, and that we would go along with doing a workshop just so that we could have a board. So I'm perfectly okay with canceling that workshop.
All right.
I'm fine with canceling as well.
Okay.
All right. then officially canceled.
Okay.
Comments. I don't think I have anything tonight.
Okay.
I know I'm missing something. I'm going to get home and kick myself for not saying it. Charlie's smiling because he knows it probably was directed at him. It's a gift for you tonight. Just wish everybody a safe ride home.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and just say congratulations to our science fair winners. Your projects were so impressive. We have some very talented students in our district who are going to do great things in their lives, and we're privileged to have so many wonderful students to come into our buildings every day and bring our graduation rates and our scores up as high as they are. They're to be commended on many levels, but specifically we had the science fair last week and it was a great success.
Okay.
I'll go. So, not to be kind of a Debbie Downer, but if your name's Debbie, I don't mean no offense to that. But I wanted to kind of echo what Ms. May said about when she was talking about the high stakes testing, but I'm not talking about that in specific. But when I was in Tallahassee for the FSBA legislative conference, the morning before we went out to meet with our respective legislators was very interesting. I know they always have legislators come in. But this particular time, and if you go on the FSBA website, you can see the list of who spoke that morning. And the first speaker was Senator Nancy Dietert, who is from, I want to say Sarasota County. She's either Sarasota or Charlotte County. And she started off her little talk, and she said, I'm term limited. I'm leaving in 18, and I'm going to lay it all out on the line. And boy, did she ever. And here's what she challenged us to, and this is what I wanted to speak to with Mrs. Mace. She said, you know, we hear a lot from school board members and district employees across the state on all the things we're doing that you don't like. But we don't see you in Tallahassee. We need you to be involved in the process. And she said, you don't, and then she used an example as in, you guys don't like how much money we give to charters. But when we have our committee meetings and we look out at the audience, the charter people are there, they're filling out speaker cards, but school board members are not there telling us why this hurts your district. And so she really challenged school board members in particular. That was, you know, the audience. There were some superintendents there, but mostly school board members. She challenged us to get involved in the process and really find the things that matter the most to our district and be more involved there in Tallahassee. And not just at the local level, but she said, and then she talked a lot about respect of local elected officials with the state elected officials and that relationship and building those relationships. And then the other speakers who spoke echoed some of her sentiments. So it was kind of eye-opening to me to see that and to hear at least from one legislator that they want our opinions and involvement in that process, in their actual lawmaking process, much like we have the public speak to us on their opinions and what matters to them. So I thought that was very poignant, and certainly with the testing as well as a number of other issues, we need to be there. There are some, and I won't go into details, but there are some bills before our legislature this year that could change the face of education in the state of Florida completely, and one of which is statewide school choice. And so that could affect our boundaries, our, you know, when we need to be planning. If you don't know a whole lot about that bill, it's pretty interesting. And I don't know where it has ended up this week. I have not been able to get on and look, but I will. So I would just ask that we pay more attention to those things. I know we do. I know we give legislative priorities, but to actually be involved in the process is important. And the only other thing, well, I lost my train of thought, so I'm with Ms. Karakis, I guess. That's it. You were going to No.
Okay. Ms. Studdard?
Well, this month has been a busy month for all of us. We started off well, I know some of you read it, Coppergate. I think you read it, Coppergate. You read it, Coppergate. And then went over to Tynes and read at Tynes. And the kids going to the schools and seeing the students recharges your batteries. That's what it's all about. Just love it. We had the Clay County Spelling Bee, and a Lakeside Elementary student was the proud winner of that. Then we had the Clay County Teacher of the Year. We had the Support Person of the Year. Let's see, he was from W. Cherry, and the Teacher of the Year was from Ridgeview. Look at there. There's a proud Ridgeview teacher. We also had a great day from early morning until night at the science fair. Those projects this year, I'll bet none of us could explain some of those projects. They were outstanding, and it was a job well done, even though when we were serving their lunch, the power went out, and they had their cell phones to shine on the cookies to see what kind they were getting, because it was dark in there. Let's see. I believe oh, and then we had the meeting up at Argyle, trying to work through trying to find a better plan for the district lines for the schools up there. But it's been an interesting month and a busy month, and but it's that time of the year, so I know we all enjoyed it. And I tell you, if you ever just get a chance, and this is for people who are watching on TV too, if you get a chance, go out to our schools and see what's going on. There's some good things going on. Our teachers and our principals are just so proud, and would love to have you come in. So that's it.
We also had a great choral concert.
The choral,
too. Yeah, which was outstanding. Yep. It was over the top. I really enjoyed that one. So, yeah. Yep.
Chorus.
Did you already go? Okay. All right. Well, I just want to echo everything everybody else said. I was actually out of town last week. I was in Washington, D.C., enjoying some time with my son, who I don't get to see very often. But so I did miss the science fair, but did get to attend some of those other events, and it has been a busy month. And so that's all I have. Just want to wish everybody a great week, and be safe. Superintendent? Nope.
I don't have anything else. We do have executive session immediately following over here. Do you have anything, Mr. Sykes? Okay.
Attorney request? Okay. This meeting is adjourned.